Nritta is basically you're saying it's only movement based and it doesn't have an expression. But a movement has an expression. That's what we would say. That any movement, if I'm moving, it would express some kind of a general feeling from yourself. The way you turn, like when I'm talking, you're nodding your head, and I would see that there is a kind of an agreement between us that is happening. And so it's just a movement of the head, but we are not any expressing anything. And this particular course is not just learning dance and learning just the theory of dance. Say that my journey has been one is, of course, hard work is something that really is the backbone of any kind of a success. But at the same time, being at the right time at the right place is something very important. I believe in that. See, the parampara is what I am saying. I think there is a parampara not only in arts. There is a parampara even if you see sciences. They are actually recognized by who the teacher is.
So I would like to start off and first congratulate you for this position you have attained as Vice Chancellor of the Central University. And I understand that you were a student of MPA, Master of Performing Arts, and then you took a PhD there in dance, and then you joined the Sarojini, Naidu, SN College School of Communication. And in fact, I find some coincidences there also. This university was set up in Sarojini Naidu's house. And the school was also named, the school in which you were involved, that was named Sarojini Naidu School of. So there is a lot of coincidences there also. And how do you see this transformation there as a student? And then you did some research there, and then you became a teacher, and then you became the head of that department, and now you are heading the entire institution. So how do you see this transformation?
In fact, I would say that, my journey has been one is, of course, hard work is something that really is the backbone of any kind of a success. But at the same time, being at the right time at the right place is something very important. I believe in that because when I finished my degree graduation in English literature, political science, and history from the Women's College Koti, which is now called the Chakali Ailama University. It was in 1988. By that time, I was performing. I was known as a performer, Kuchipudi performer, quite a lot, as a solo performer. And also, I was keenly interested in pursuing academics in dance. But there were when I was doing my degree, there were no colleges which offered performing arts, especially in the southern part of India. We don't have any. So at that time, I was thinking that I should probably go into history or archaeology, especially to see whether some kind of an academic work can be done related to dance. Is what my final goal was. But incidentally, it happened so that by the time I finished my degree, the University of Hyderabad started this particular school called Sarojini Naidu School of Performing Arts, Fine Arts and Communication. It was a brainchild of the one of the internationally renowned linguists, Professor Bhadiraj Krishnamurthy Garu, who was heading the training. And this particular course is not just learning dance and learning just the theory of dance. It's not that. We talk about the socio-historical, political theories, and also talk about how evolution of dance has happened not only at the level of our own nation, but across nations, and what kind of roots are there, the social history of dance, and talking about. So that way, being in a university setup, we had also the opportunity of drawing from various other social anthropology. The faculty members would come and help us out, give some lectures. So that way, this interaction has happened, and we had as 4 departments. Basically, the communication was there. We had we still have we have added music in the later years, in the last 4 years, but until then we had theater arts, we had dance, fine arts department was there, and then communication was there. So this kind of we used to have a common course wherein we would have an understanding of the other art forms too, the interrelationship between them. So this has widened our horizons as people who were dancing, who were into dance passionate because of the passion that I was doing my regular education, but passionately involved in dance, and I've been trained under great gurus, and then so that's how it has widened our the horizons as a dancer. And I would say when I joined the master's program, we used to have such a confidence, saying that I mean that age is also like that. So I used to think that I'm one of the best dancers around. But by the time we finished the course, my entire confidence was undone. We would know where we stand. That there is so much of work. I mean, so many things that need to be explored, learned. So this is how it actually, first of all, at one point may unnerve you, but gives you, opens up this world of dance to you, wherein you would know that you're nothing. You have to do a lot of work in order to be somebody. So this kind of an understanding is most humbling for us, in fact. So having been exposed to these things, so that way the master's program has been a chance for me, because immediately after that, probably if it would have been started a year later, I would have probably done archaeology and gone into it. But this was being right time and right place is what has happened. So that's how, even when I did, my journey has been more or less smooth, in the sense by the time I finished my master's, we got the JRF, the UGC fellowship I got, and then after a break of almost within a year of that particular fellowship, our the department started the PhD program under Nataraja Ramakrishna Garu. So we have enrolled under him. And then my work was basically on the tradition and innovations in Kuchipudi dance. The kind of transformation that has happened to the form owing to the socio-cultural and political changes that have happened over a century. That is from the 1900, beginning of 1900s to 2000. 90, I stopped at 1980s because my work wasn't happening in 90s. So I actually, this is one opportunity that gave me to go to the roots of all the dance form and interact with several hereditary gurus of Kuchipudi, document their histories, and also look at authentic sources to establish the history of Kuchipudi. Because they talk about several things that but there are no documentary evidences. But this is one work wherein I also got some help. I was saying that people from different gurus or teachers from different departments were helping us on this. So the then dean, we had a dean for our school. We had, after Aparagaru, we had a couple of deans, and when I enrolled for my PhD, one of the historical great historian, Professor V. Ramakrishna, was the dean of the Sarojini Naidu School. So when he actually, being a dean, he had some kind of he was talking about the academics and things like that, how we are going about with our work. So when he talked, he said that there is a kind of a set methodology. If you're approaching from the historical point of view, there are certain methodologies that you have to adapt, and how you bring out this history is something that he has guided me on this particular aspect. So when we went to the revenue records, because this is from a village. This Kuchipudi is from a village, and the practitioners were in that particular village for some several hundred years. But it was not, it was only the oral history that we had. So I could go back to that revenue records and establish, because they were given grants of that particular village, lands and things like that. So this particular going to these evidences and establishing through these evidences the history of the form is something that was unique to my work. After that, the second part of it is the innovations that have come into the form. And being a dancer, I focused on the technique of dance, the technique, how it has been changing over a period of time, and also the repertoire, how the repertoire of Kuchipudi has changed, and what actually inspired them to change this particular, what are the socio-cultural reasons to bring out this kind of a repertoire is something that I was also looking at. So on the whole, it was a big work, but at the same time, looked at the history part of it and how the transitions have happened until late 80s that I was looking at. So this work actually has enabled me to collect the primary source material, which actually was in a very I would say it's not in a very structured format, but any paper, the small paper that I see, we would take that. So we were trying to connect the dots and bring out this particular historic history, and also the transitions that have happened and the gurus who have contributed to this. So that way the primary source material became the basis for me, and writings, of course, on when I did my PhD were very limited writings on Kuchipudi. But thanks to Sangeet Natak Academy, AP Sangeet Natak Academy, which has published in the journals, in the journal that it was publishing, Natakala, and also we had several collections with the gurus. Here I have to mention about Guru Vempatisena Satyam Garu, who actually had the collection of his brother, elder brother, Vempati Peda Satyam. In fact, Vempati Peda Satyam had this kind of a documentation, mind of documenting things. So he had huge books in which he would collect all the published material, especially interviews with different gurus, and when Kuchipudi was questioned whether it is folk or classical, the kind of discussions that happened in the print media, all this he would cut and then he has put it in two different volumes, and that was a great eye opener for us, and that was a great resource for us. Unfortunately, what happened was those times we had only Xerox, we were taking Xerox copies, and they were huge books like this. And later, in fact, after I took some of the Xerox copies and things like that, a few years from that, a couple of years after that, unfortunately, what happened was in the academy, in the Kuchipudi Art Academy, where Master was keeping those books, there was a big, huge leakage, and water seeped into those books, and we are not in a position, we could not get back that particular material. So that way, at least, it gave me some kind of a impetus to go to the original sources and see these things. And I mean, now that everybody refers to my thesis as the basis, is something of, after that we have under my guidance, only seven PhDs were focused on the Kuchipudi, especially Kuchipudi. Different, we have gone into different periods and more deeper into those periods as such. So this is a broad work which actually has become the basis. Of course, I mean, others have to say about the work as such. That's it. So this is how being a student was a great learning process in the university. Being a teacher was much more a greater learning, because it was hard for me, because I joined at 24. I was asked, I did not even complete my PhD. I was appointed as a lecturer against the reader position that was existing in the department. So for 5 years, I was against that position. 98, I became I was absorbed into the permanent position. 2003, I became professor in dance, professor in the department. But this was a great learning process for me, because I was just handed over everything and asked to do it. No, it was very difficult in the beginning stages, because I have to manage my teaching, look at this administration work. Though there were people up there who were guiding me, it was it was learning process for me. So in the process, we have introduced certain changes in the syllabus, research methodologies were started, because our own experiences do prompt what need to be done and what more need to be brought in and things like that. So we have been doing that. And 2003, after I became the professor, 2004, I became the dean of the school, 4 to 6. So I think no, it's all something that I think has happened, and I'm there, and I have to learn it and do it. That's what has happened, and exactly that's what has happened even now. Now the situation is that I'm the senior most professor in the entire university, and our Vice Chancellor, Professor Vijay Rao Garu, attained 70 years. And there is a policy that after beyond 17 years that he cannot continue. So there came a situation that the senior most professor has to take over the administrative responsibility of the university. So that's how I took over as the Vice Chancellor. I'm just hoping, because the advertisement has already gone, I'm hoping that there would be a permanent vice chancellor who would come. And in the transition period, this is a learning process. What I see when I look at the last 1 month, today I complete 1 month being a vice chancellor. So what I see is it's a learning process. All through it is a learning process for me. Each day is a learning for me, and also there are now the responsibility is more. Whatever I have done was only at the school level and the department level, but here it is the entire university which is involved. The responsibility is very, I mean, it's more, and also we have to be very cautious in treading or taking any kind of decisions. And I very strongly believe, being a student here and also a teacher, I have been here for a long time. I know most of the faculty members. They have seen me grow, and also the administration, the members of the administration, they all know me well. That I've been, since this kind of a proximity that I have will, I'm sure, help me out in taking, I mean, certain decisions which are needed for the smooth running of the department of the university. And also, I would say that our faculty and the non-teaching faculty are the strengths of the university. See, an academic institution always thrives upon the excellence of the faculty and the students, of course. That way, we have a very strong kind of a core group that works towards putting our university at a level of excellence. So that way, I mean to save hands. I would say that we have good group of faculty, non-teaching faculty, and also the student groups are also have the ideology, because this is a space where different ideologies can have their own space. I mean, can be accommodated. There is a lot of give and take between these things. So I think it's a healthy kind of a situation that I'm into it right now. So that's how I see at the this entire transition or journey of mine.
Yeah. So two things I noted. One is the Guru Shishya Parampara, which is there in dance and music. In Kalamandalam, it has now become a university, but traditionally these schools taught in the Guru Shishya Parampara. In universities, it may not be that easy, but from what your narrative, I understand that it was more or less like a Guru Shishya Parampara in your department also.
See, the parampara is what I am saying. I think there is a parampara not only in arts. There is a parampara even if you see sciences. They are actually recognized by who the teacher is, from where they come from. Even in sciences, it happens. The lab-oriented works and things like, and also even in others, like we talk about that this person comes from this particular university. Okay, so we would gauge the standard of that, the kind of orientations that they would have had, gauge it just by knowing where they come from. So there is a parampara established, I would say, across the various disciplines. But it is all the more seen in the art forms because it was until last 30, more than 30 years, that it was not into an institutionalized system. Institutions were there, but established by the individuals. Majorly, institution established by individuals where one guru is the one who would actually give the entire training. There are no multiple gurus coming in and doing it. But when you look at this, the system of being in a university, in fact, when you come to the practical part of it, like when we see one third of it, when you have 82 credit scores as such, in fact, 24, it is half and half of practical and theory. And practical also not just Kuchipudi or not just Bharatanatyam. We do have practical courses dedicated to those, but beyond that, we have specialized courses on Abhinaya, specialized courses on music and the Thala, which are dealt by different faculty members. It's not just one faculty member who deals with this. So expertise coming from various sources that go into the making of it. Though we say that, I have done, see, whoever has been the mentors and guides, we do speak about it. But here the difference is that it is a multi-dimensional kind of an approach. And also we are not making performers here. We are making already, they are the ones who have gone to a level of degree of learning, who have at least certificate or done their diploma in dance, or at least have minimum of 5 to 10 years of training in dance, and they come here. Even in Kalamandalam is entirely focused on, because they take students at eighth class. It's entirely majorly focus is on the practical part of it. But here what happens is they are coming at a master's level. They are not coming at an earlier level. It is not an integrated kind of a course that we have. So when they come, they are already into with a particular teacher, have learned a particular parampara and then gone here. So here what we do is, even in Kuchipudi, you have different teachers and different kind of schools of thought in practice that do come in. So we actually have a kind of an opening. It's much more thinking about what you're doing. It's not undoing what they have already learned. It's not that. We are trying to hone the skills that they have already imbibed when they come as dancers here. Hone them and try and make them think of what they are doing, not just theme wise or the rasa bhava wise. So basically using the body. How do you use? We have a course of understanding how the body, the technique that we use, and we take the Angika Abhinaya that is there in Natya Shastra as the basis and try and see, what makes this particular movement come like this, and how aesthetic is this, and how the shifts of the weight of the body actually bring that particular grace or the vibrancy in that particular movement. So this is how when we are doing the practicals also, you're not just correcting it, saying that, put your elbow up and things like that. It's not just the peripheral kind of a correction that happens. The correction happens from within, when you're moving, what is working from within you when you're dancing. So this kind of an opening up of, and also opening up of accepting the other schools of thought, accepting the others and trying to take, how you negotiate. If there is something very beautiful in it, you do take it. You should be open for it. Because if you are in the parampara tradition, you are under a guru. I'm not saying it is wrong, but you're under a guru and you're always actually following that particular path. But there are now, what happens is you have to open and see that there are other streams also, wherein you can probably, if it is needed, you understand them, you appreciate them. There should be basically a respect and appreciation towards the other things also, and then imbibe if at all, because it's all belonging to Kuchipudi or it's all belonging to Bharatanatyam. Okay, so we have we have a particular margam that we actually take up, but also look at how this particular item is done by different gurus and what is the strengths in that, and what are the where you have to negotiate, if at all you're negotiating. So this is how is with due respects to the parampara tradition. I would say excellent dancers do come from that kind of a grounded training that they would have. Here, actually, in 2 years of a course, what we can do, I mean, because the especially performing arts, you have to have decades of sadhana to become a good dancer. But when you may be a good dancer, you may come as a good dancer, but if you are a thinking dancer, your dance is different. That is what we try to bring out of the students, to understand and think of what they are doing. Why are they doing this? And why is this particular movement coming after this particular movement? How does the body work out? All these we do discuss when we are doing our practice also, and what kind of a balance that you need to achieve. Why that, different, you cannot just draw different movements and put together. There is a flow that is needed. So all these we do discuss through the items that we actually teach and they learn, and also bring some kind of a comparison from what they have already learned, and try and look at why is that like that and why is this like this. So this is basically to open up the mind, to accept, to respect, and also to learn from what is around, and also to think of what they are doing. That's the major thing that makes a difference. Like, if you're just reproducing it, you're reproducing it. But when you're thinking of what is being done and how is it coming, your dance is different. So that's what we aim at the practical level of it. So I would say in this institution, especially university, I can talk about University of Hyderabad because I've been here. We try to bring in all these things. Even in the theoretical, we don't want to separate theory and practice. Your practice actually has to enrich your understanding of theory, and your knowledge of theory should enrich the practice. There is a kind of an organic relation between these two. So this is what we try to bring together through our courseworks, different courseworks that we have. So this is how, but a great, if you want to be only a dancer, you have to, I think this is when you have to go through the parampara tradition or through under a particular guru for years, because there should be a kind of a strong foundation. But once when they come to a master's program, they are at an age of maturity too. 20, 21 is one age that you also mature a bit, thinking wise. So that is where we tap. That is where we actually try to make that kind of a difference. So of course, this is how it is.
Okay, so the important point that you said is the thinking part of it, then opening up the mind and accepting diversity.
Yeah,
These are things that you don't get in the Guru Shishya Parampara tradition. No? That is what you are trying to change in the university system.
Yes,
So
yes.
there I would like to just go back to your core area, that is dance, where you have this Nritta, Nritya and Natya. So when you apply this to other disciplines, when somebody comes to your department, they have already, as you said, they have practiced under somebody, they know dancing, but that's not the case with many other disciplines. So they are initiated into a new discipline when they come for undergrad studies, then they come for PG also, they are initiated into something new. So how can we blend this Nritta, Nritya and Natya into that? No, initially getting them to feel interested. In Nritta, there is only just movements, no emotion or anything is conveyed. Slowly you get into that process where bhava and this rasa is employed. Then drama comes. So can you visualize that way where all disciplines, especially when University of Hyderabad is now trying to increase its ranking and it is already scoring well in QS rankings. So all the disciplines, I think, may have to think like this also.
In fact, yesterday, I mean, we are noting down that even IITs are now, because of thanks to NEP, wherein this kind of a holistic approach, an introduction, not to be compartmentalized, and to open up for the students to choose from different areas through the general education courses that they want to take and things like that. Now I think the general educational approach is slowly changing, wherein we are looking at not only our core subjects, that we are also trying to look at the other subjects, especially if it is arts. We are trying to look at, of course, social sciences and all that. That has been already imbibed into our course curriculum, actually. Vice versa, even the technological university like the IITs are also adopting. They have social sciences, they do have, and I'm told that they have introduced some credits, especially for theater, music, dance, that the students can take up. Unless they graduate and do these credits, they won't get the final graduation certificate. So this is, I think this is a change that is coming through. And what I would say, what we have, our approach at the master's level is different from what we do it. In fact, now our own department is giving certain general educational courses wherein we talk about the evolution, give them an idea of dance, like, how dance is so closely embedded with the social evolution of the human beings. The evolution of human being and also the social societies that they are in. So with lot of visual material that we have certain courses, like, the across dance across cultures is one course that we give. And there is also basics, talking about Indian dance and things like that. We have certain courses which we give at the integrated level, that is at the undergraduate level. We have a college of integrated studies, we have these courses. I think these are very important because this basically, everybody thinks dance is just dancing on stage, moving the body, dancing on stage. This is not what it is. It's a part of our culture. It's a part of our culture, our evolution process. It is a great marker, identity marker for us. In fact, one has to break this mindset. Like, whoever comes in thinks the body would moving the body in any way is dancing. I mean, it has its own science behind it, and one has to understand that there is some kind of a depth with from where it comes from. It is not just moving the body and doing some kind of an expression. There is something that the persona of the person comes out of it, and later there is a lot of history behind what the form is today. Any form, centuries of evolution has brought it to the fore and made it like this. So that we at the university we have already started this kind of under general education courses and specific optional courses that these basics are given. But we are not treading as much into the practical part of it because that needs dedicated faculty members. Of course, there are certain restraints on that particular factor. But in case if we are full, our entire faculty strength is there, probably we may also offer certain courses. And when you're talking about Nritta and Natya, Nritta is basically you're saying it's only movement based and it doesn't have an expression. But a movement has an expression. That's what we would say. That any movement, if I'm moving, it would express some kind of a general feeling from yourself. The way you turn, like, when I'm talking, you're nodding your head, and I would see that there is a kind of an agreement between us that is happening. And so it's just a movement of the head, but we are not expressing anything. But a movement of the head, movement of the body has a kind of it gives you a kind of see, when you're talking about leave alone dance, just the movement of the body, the way somebody looks at you, the way somebody reacts or turns, you can see that there is a kind of a feeling of either acceptance or not accepting. Like, if I'm talking, if I don't want to talk to you, if I'm not in agreement, I would not talk straight to you. I would probably sit like this and say, okay. Okay, this is general, is a human nature. Okay, movement actually, even if it is Anga Vikshepa, creating some beauty through the technique, it has also some general feeling that is being given, some energy is being given out. So that way, I suppose this is more Nritta having a kind of a feeling, expression for its own self is seen especially in the context of dance dramas and all that. Though in solos we see it as more of expression of joy and movement and things like creating certain aesthetic pleasure as such. So I would say in our own department there were certain experiments that were done, workshops that were done, where we are using expression bhava, when you're talking about expression, as something that would actually work on the core of the human and give a kind of an emotional vent. So there were some, in fact, one of our own colleagues, Dr. Arnab Bhikshu, has initiated some work on this, wherein we are looking at medium, dance is a medium of therapy. This is in the nascent stage, still in the nascent stage, but I would say that, dance has a lot of potential. Only thing is you need to focus and work on these areas in depth. And I would say that it can be very useful across areas, across different areas, because one of my own student is working on cognition and how this actually would lead into the learning processes. So, and in dance, what is happening? So she's working on it. One of the PhDs are happening on that. So that way, there is a lot of potential, of course. Lot of potential, lot of work is being initiated in application, area of application of these Nritta, Abhinaya, whatever you're talking about. So that there is a kind of a purpose for it in the not just the Ranjana that you're talking about, the Rasanubhava. Of course, that is one of the greatest purpose that we have of trying to connect with the other and give some kind of a Rasanubhava is one thing. But beyond that, there are different purposes. That you have to have a kind of a tangible purpose today to prove yourself. Like saying that when you do this, probably it will give you a kind of a went from these things. So these are the areas wherein application oriented kind of an experimentation in use of dance is happening. And this is one area which has been explored quite in detail in the West. But here in India, it is happening, and our university is also making some baby steps and efforts into these areas. So that's where it is.
You mentioned about this expressions. No, I read about Natya Dharmi and Loga Dharmi. Natya Dharmi is where you have this exaggerated movement as in dance, and there are other things like you do in real life, just as you showed. So, are you trying to understand this in the Kuchipudi also?
In fact, in Kuchipudi, I would say Lokadharmi is more, because it being a traditional, the roots are, it is a traditional theatre form that has transformed itself into a solo, and then have a lot of drama in it. Even the solos have a lot of drama in it. In fact, Natya is more structured kind of an expression where the gestures that are there in the Shastra are used for communication. But Lokadharmi is much more close to the Loka kind of the behavior, the general behavior, and also indicates a certain expressions which are generally used in the regular parlance and regular communication interactions and things like that. So it is much more, I would say, Lokadharmi is much predominant in Kuchipudi, and Natidharmi, of course, is there, especially when it comes to the solo repertoire. The Natidharmi is much more predominantly there. Lokadharmi is there more in the yakshaganas and the dance dramas. But over a period of time, you would see that there is, even in the dance dramas, especially of Vempati Chinnasatyangaru, you see that there is a great balance, between Lokadharmi and Natidharmi. Whenever there is drama, the Lokadharmi may come in. But there is a lot of, when you have the darus and dance and things like that, there is a Natidharmi that is being used quite a bit. So there is a kind of a balance that is being brought into it over a period of time. The more is the exposure, the more would be the addition that would come in, I suppose. So it is kind of the change is inherent in the form. It comes in, and any living art form for that matter, not only Kuchipudi, if it is Bharatanatyam or Mohiniyattam, you would have seen the kind of transformations that have seeped into it. And it is very natural to any living art form. So if you have to connect to your audience, you need to bring in that kind of aesthetics do change over a period of time. So that's what it is in Kuchipudi. There is a balance now. But if you're just talking about Yakshagana, not Lokadharmi becomes more predominant. And if it is solos, it's just Natyadharmi. But we do have this kind of bringing in the Lokadharmi when it comes into the action or narration of certain episodes and things like the way we become the characters and do it. There is more Lokadharmi.
And Bhakti movement played a major role in popularizing dance, in the 6th, 7th century. Actually, it was a more Brahmanical tradition of dance that was brought into the mainstream, in the temples. So do you think that, and then after that, some disciplines like Mohiniyattam was performed only by women and Kathakali only by men. So these kind of gender bias and all were prevalent. So do you think another kind of bhakti movement has already taken place now that these kind of gender barriers are breaking and also this scientific exploration is happening?
In fact, we should not blame Bhakti movement for this. In fact, I think that the then socio-cultural contexts have actually paved way for this kind of, because we had Agama Nartana in the temples where women were the ones who were dedicated and were doing. And parallelly, when you look at the medieval period, medieval times, that you see lot of traditional theatre forms. Even later medieval times also, you were talking about Kathakali, only men being there, because they are into public spaces. And the socio-cultural context at that particular time had more of a permissibility for men to go, and because they are the kind of transportation that you did not have as much, there is a kind of a hardship that is involved in it. Probably that is one thing that has probably, and also the kind of political kind of circumstances that were there. We were under the rule of the Mughals and all. When this happened, women were not safe in the public spaces. So probably that is one of the reasons that you had only men. Only men being involved in such art forms which had this kind of itinerant groups going from one place to the other and performing in the public, not in the private spaces. In the private spaces, you see that even in Rajasthanas or the Zamindaris or small or in the temples, you see only women being there. So I would see it as women were in more safer spaces of performance and men were in the public domain. Okay, that's what has happened over a period of time. So of course, the changes have happened, especially last one, such a 1930s, 20s onwards, you see that there is a change wherein I don't think no new Bhakti movement or anything has to come in. It has happened. See, Kuchipudi was performed only by men. Today, it is majority of women are performing Kuchipudi. And in Kathakali, you see ladies getting into it. And in Mohiniyattam, I see beautiful male dancers coming in now. Okay, so this kind of I think it has already started. That is this crossing of the genders. Not that you have to curtail to only this kind of men or women. It is now started, and it is more prevalent and more rampant after the freedom after we became free India. This became more, and you see that especially in the last 2 decades, it's more takers, irrespective of genders, to a particular form has happened, and some which were basically curtailed to a particular gender have now reversed. Even in Kuchipudi, male characters are being done by women. I think this kind of a change has already started and is happening in this area, and we are becoming more even as an audience, we are accepting that. See, any art form for that matter is basically has to be accepted by the audience, and anything that is accepted will go further. Okay, if there are no audience, no takers to it, or no connoisseurs who would accept it, it will not go further. There is now an acceptance that has generally come in, and these are now being taken further. This is how I look at it as such. But Bhakti movement is entirely a different kind of a movement, probably because that's majorly talking about Jivatma and Paramatma, where we are all dancing. I mean, this dance being used or music being used as a path to attain the Paramatma and things like that. That was majorly the trend that came in literature and also through the Bhakti movement as such.
So I think I will have one last question, which will cover two areas. One is the school education and then the higher education. And in school education, I find that there are a lot of NCERT textbooks which are focused on arts, and they cover this basic aspect of dance, the movement and everything. But I don't know whether it is taught. In my time, it was not taught at all. But now there are some good books, and it talks about the maths of geometric angles that you can see. So that creates an interest in children towards this dance. Yeah. Then you have said that there is a rich history behind it. Just listening to you, your conversation in the last 30-40 minutes itself was very enlightening. So can we integrate this in our school curriculum such that children become interested in this music and dance, and see that beyond this performing for a prize or competition, they take this seriously, and as you try to do in your course also, ask them to think. They did this in a particular way because their guru taught them, but you are telling them that you have to just think and also look at how others are doing. So this is a great insight that you are trying to provide, and you are in a central university which has lot of potential in India. Unlike the state universities or private universities, you are uniquely positioned because you have that massive strength infrastructure-wise and resource-wise. So in this AI age, how do you see this kind of transformation that you want the central universities to adopt for the growth of our youth? I mean, this demographic dividend that we have. We have a young age. I mean, India is blessed with a young population, and that is going to be our strength along with China also. So how do you...
In fact, see, when it is applied to dance, you yourself are saying that now, earlier we never had books, at least books or, material that would actually give some kind of insight into dance. Now you have at the school curriculum, at the school level itself, you have such... and it's been more than, I think, last 2 decades now that the CBSE has introduced this as an optional subject from 8th class to 12th class. Initially, I'm told that there were no takers because we were under that particular flow of getting into sciences, especially the IT and all that, because there was a lot of boom in it and there is a lot of opportunity for livelihood post their courses. There is a placement and you're settled. So this is the basic need of a human being, is that you have to first of all have some kind of a livelihood. But there are also exceptionally a few who would say that, I'm not looking at it, I want to pursue this. So for that young minds, I suppose the optional courses, initial takers were not there. I have seen some of the schools, CBSE schools within Hyderabad. But later you see that there are students who are actually taking these as optional courses, and one of their courses, making it as one of their courses for assessment in the basic 10 plus 2 level also, especially pertaining to dance and music. There are more takers for music because it doesn't involve that kind of a physical exhaustion also. And the mindset is that you can continue music even after your whatever, after a particular age. And some do have an apprehension that after a particular age you can't dance, and it has dance involves a lot, and if you want to sing you can just sing, but for dance you need to have somebody assisting you as the or there should be a kind of a music you should dance, there should be an avenue to dance, all these things were there. But now I suppose this mindset has somehow broken, and there are takers, especially young dancers who have been learning with teachers, are opting to get into these courses when they come to the +2 level, and also from 8th class onwards. That is happening. That is one level. And you're talking about bringing in some kind of material that would, the historical material that would actually probably open up these minds, these young minds. But we are looking, as I was talking, we are working on that at the after +2 level, at the undergraduate level, where these courses are being, we have initiated that. There is a lot that can be done, as you would say that we have several things that one can do, but we are limited going step by step, because at the College of Integrated Studies we are giving two courses right now, as a general education course, and also a course which would be an optional for the students. They come and then they take, and a few introductions do happen for those who are not at all into dancing, trying to create some kind of a interest in it. So here actually what we are doing is that through this understanding, we are creating our own audience who would consume whatever we are being giving. See, there should be, as I was saying, the acceptance, there should be, when it comes to classical dances, the audience or the connoisseurs have to come with a kind of an open mind and some kind of a pre-understanding of it, some interest into it, so that there is an effort from the audience also to understand what is being done. So this kind of a mindset to understand, to make an effort to understand is what is needed. This kind of courses would, I would say, would create a kind of the audience that are needed, the connoisseurs that we need to, for a art form to flourish, is at one level. And you're talking about the AI and AI generated and the age of AI and things like that. And I saw in one of your some mails that that does Nritta have any? I mean, I have that AI can replace whatever we are doing. But I'm a strong believer in the human interaction. See, if you go and see something on a screen, a dance performance recorded on a screen, it won't give you that kind of an experience. But if you go into a small an auditorium, a large auditorium and a smaller auditorium also has a difference. If it is a smaller auditorium with the dancer there dancing, the kind of anubhava that you get, that the kind of experience that you get is different. Okay, this is like watching anything. Like you can switch it off anytime. But there you are going to get that kind of just entering that particular auditorium, going through those corridors, getting into the auditorium itself a kind of a preparation that happens for us as an audience. So I would sit, and when something is happened, you're drawn into it if it is a good dancer who is doing it. And the kind of experience that you have is entirely different from just watching a video and things like that. And also I would say that AI, whatever it is, as of now, I would say that it is also, when it comes to body and movement and things like that, maybe very good. But the kind of energy that a body gives, like the way when you're doing it every day, every time, even if I'm practicing, I'm reinventing myself. I'm doing the same item, but I'm reinventing myself and redoing everything. So the kind of doing on a particular day is different from the next day. So it is basically, it is not just anga vikshepa that we call about, just not, it's not like the hand has to go here, the hand has to, it's not that. There might be, see, when you look at each body is different for us. Okay, when you look at Kelu Babu, I mean, he's such a great guru. When you look at him, he's nothing. I mean, as a superficially, when you look at his form and things like that, he's petite. He's an old guru and things like that. But when he does that particular Ashtapadi, the way the body moves, the kind of energy that comes in, you're mesmerized. Okay, only a living body can do that. Okay, there might be perfection when you're talking about AI. I can probably give everything perfectly. And that can only, I suppose, that can only catch your attention or make you happy only for a very short duration. A living body, a human interaction, I would say, has a different kind of energy altogether. So AI can probably give you what is perfect, what can be perfect, and probably do wonders beyond that particular perfection. But a human body has its own role, because there is that energy that is within, that can communicate with you, bereft of your language, bereft of your whatever it is. There is a kind of a communication that happens. You may not know the language, you may not even know the intricacies of dance there, but there is something that comes, and then there is a kind of connect that happens between your audience and yourself. No, as an audience, when I'm looking at it, I connect with that particular dancer. Okay, there is an energy between us. So this cannot be, I suppose, replaced. I'm being hopeful about that. In fact, because AI has an excellent, of course, has a place, talks about the perfect things that can do, and you have that, the artificial intelligence coming in, but it cannot replace the human mind and human body and human energy. So this is what I think is, it is at this level. AI cannot definitely do it, but as a central university which is positioned at a very advantageous kind of a position, I think we have to look at, of course, going more into the areas that we were talking about earlier in research, and also probably have a kind of a responsibility also to handhold certain institutions which actually are doing, and probably give our best practices to them. I believe strongly in that. So I hope we would have those opportunities to do some good work as such.
I think when I was studying in college, there was something called SPICMAK, which used to give
Uh-huh.
demo
Yes.
classes. I think
Yes.
University of
We
Hyderabad
have we
has
have we have a speak mac. We have a dedicated cultural one cultural club. It is not a club. In fact, we have dedicated funds to it to have cultural activities um, on the campus. So this particular one faculty member actually organizes these, is dedicated to that, wherein every month we have programs, performances that do happen on the campus, music, dance, theater. We do have that happening, and it is one of the most popular on the university campus now. So on different occasions, we do have people coming from outside, not within the campus. Of course, several things do happen, and several conferences do have cultural activities. But at the same time, this is a dedicated cultural wing, wherein we do have performances from artists called from outside. They do come in and they perform. We have across performing arts, people do come in and perform, so that there is a kind of a literacy, dance literacy or music literacy or art literacy that do goes in as such.
Uh,
And of
so
course, yeah.
So thank you very much for this enlightening session where you expressed your ideas, thoughts about your own life and this dance pedagogy and how it interacts with students. So just an interesting journey is of 1 hour. So I wish you all the best in this role of, and I don't know how long you will be there. So even in that limited time, I am sure that you will be able to bring some
I'm, I'm,
changes.
I'm just hopeful. I'm just hopeful of that. Thank you for your wishes. I suppose this is my first interview online after I became, I took over this particular position, and I also, I'm thankful to you for having considering or asking me to do this. I hope uh, the kind of ideas, because there are several youngsters who are coming into the academics of dance with so many different ideas, and I hope they get their due as such, because these youngsters are the ones who will count, who would decide the journey of dance, the history of dance as such. So I'm sure with the kind of mellow and the kind of atmosphere, or that we have right now, that it has a good future. and would probably also diversify and get into new areas as such. Thank you very much for